Ethan's life is turned upside down when a single act of kindness puts him face to face with Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, setting off a chain of events that will cost him his job and reshape his future. On that hot Louisiana afternoon, 17-year-old Ethan, a sales clerk at Value Mart, notices the man struggling with heavy grocery bags. Instinctively, he rushes to help, completely unaware that his small act of generosity will ignite a storm that will change everything. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest stories. Now, let's get started. Ethan carefully placed the last bag in the man's trunk, ensuring nothing was squished or misplaced. The man, his brow glistening with sweat, smiled appreciatively. "Thank you, young man," he said, pulling out a crisp $100 bill from his wallet. Ethan shook his head and smiled back. "No need, sir," he said. "Just glad I could help." The man nodded, clearly impressed by the teen's selflessness. Walking back to the store, Ethan felt a rare sense of fulfillment. It wasn't every day that he could step outside the monotony of Value Mart and feel like he'd made a difference. But as he approached the glass doors, the warmth in his chest began to fade. Karen, the store manager, was standing at the entrance, her arms crossed and her face twisted into a scowl. "Ethan," she called, her voice sharp and unyielding. The moment he stepped inside, she gestured toward the back office without another word. Ethan's stomach churned as he followed her. The familiar fluorescent lights suddenly felt oppressive. Once inside the office, Karen didn't waste any time. "Do you think this is a charity, Ethan?" she snapped, her voice cold and clipped. "You left your post without permission. That's unacceptable." Ethan blinked, taken aback by her harshness. "I was just helping someone," he replied, his voice trembling but steady. Karen's eyes narrowed. "Helping? You think this place runs on good intentions? We have rules, Ethan. Rules you seem to think don't apply to you." She reached for a piece of paper on her desk and slid it toward him. "This is your termination notice. Effective immediately." For a moment, Ethan just stared at the paper, his mind refusing to process what was happening. "You're firing me? For helping someone?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Karen didn't flinch. "This isn't the first time you've ignored protocol," she replied. "We need employees who can follow instructions, not wander off whenever they feel like playing hero. Clear out your locker." The words hit Ethan like a punch to the stomach. He nodded silently and turned to leave. As he gathered his belongings, he could feel the weight of his coworkers' stares. The murmurs of disbelief were almost louder than his own thoughts. Sophia, one of the cashiers, approached him cautiously. "Ethan, this is insane," she said, her voice low but firm. "You didn't do anything wrong." Ethan managed a weak smile. "Thanks, Sophia. But I don't think Karen sees it that way." The automatic doors slid open as Ethan walked out of the store, the same doors he had entered with a sense of purpose every day. Now, they felt like the gates to something far more final. The parking lot where he had just done a good deed seemed empty and unwelcoming. He glanced back at the store, a knot forming in his chest. Why was I punished for doing something good? Is kindness a mistake? These questions lingered as he started the long walk home, each step weighed down by confusion and an overwhelming sense of loss. The walk home felt endless, each step weighed down by the sting of humiliation. When Ethan finally reached the small brick house he shared with his parents, his mother was the first to notice him. "You're home early," she said, her voice tinged with surprise. Her cheerful expression quickly faded when she saw the look on Ethan's face. "Mom, I got fired," he admitted, his voice heavy with defeat. Her brow furrowed. "Fired? What happened?" she asked, setting down the dish she was washing. Ethan hesitated but eventually recounted the events, helping a man in the parking lot, refusing the money, and Karen's harsh reaction. As he spoke, his voice cracked under the weight of his frustration. "That's ridiculous!" his mother exclaimed, her hands clenched into fists. "You were doing the right thing! I'm calling that store." "Mom, don't!" Ethan interrupted softly. "It'll only make things worse." He looked away, the shame of explaining himself too overwhelming. His mother sighed deeply, her anger simmering beneath the surface as she reached out to hug him. Ethan retreated to his room, shutting the door softly behind him. He flopped onto his bed, staring at the ceiling as frustration bubbled inside him. The quiet felt suffocating, filled only with the hum of the old ceiling fan. Why had things gone so wrong? He thought. At dinner, his father tried to lift the mood. I spoke to Dave at the garage, he said, scooping mashed potatoes onto his plate. He's looking for someone to help with inventory. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. Ethan nodded, appreciating the gesture but unable to shake the sting of losing his Value Mart job. Thanks, Dad, he said quietly, his fork absently pushing peas across his plate. I'll think about it. His mother placed a hand on his shoulder. We're proud of you, Ethan. You did the right thing. Don't let Karen's decision make you think otherwise. Her words, though well-meaning, only made Ethan's chest tighten. I just wanted to do something good, he whispered. That's exactly why you'll find something better, his dad replied with a gentle smile, bringing a moment of solace to the table. The morning light streamed through Ethan's window, but he barely noticed. He lay in bed, his thoughts swirling between frustration and uncertainty. Just as he was beginning to drift back into an uneasy sleep, the sharp sound of the doorbell jolted him upright. Ethan, can you get that? His mother called from the kitchen. Still groggy, he shuffled to the door, half expecting a delivery or a neighbor. As he opened it, his breath caught. Standing before him was a tall man in a sharp black suit, sunglasses reflecting the bright morning sun. Behind him, a sleek black car idled at the curb, its engine humming softly. Ethan Carter? The man asked in a deep, commanding voice. Ethan nodded, his pulse quickening. You need to come with me, the man said, stepping aside to gesture toward the car. What? Who are you? Ethan stammered, but the man offered no explanation. Please, he added, his tone leaving no room for refusal. Ethan stood frozen, his mind racing. Who was this man? Why was he here? And why was he being so insistent? The hum of the sleek car and the stranger's calm but authoritative demeanor only added to the tension. I don't understand. Why do you want me to come with you? Ethan asked, his voice shaky. All your questions will be answered in time, the man replied evenly, not breaking eye contact. It's important. Ethan glanced back at the house. His mother, unaware of the situation, was still in the kitchen. A wave of uncertainty washed over him. Should he tell her? Should he refuse? Every instinct told him this was risky, but there was something about the man's presence, a quiet assurance that seemed almost trustworthy. Taking a deep breath, Ethan nodded. All right, he said cautiously. But I need to know what's going on. You'll understand soon enough, the man replied, stepping aside to open the car door. Ethan hesitated for a moment longer, looking back at the familiar safety of his home. Then, gathering his resolve, he stepped into the car. The door closed behind him with a solid click, and he felt the locks engage automatically. The driver didn't say a word, and the man sat beside him in silence. The car pulled away smoothly, leaving Ethan with only questions and a growing sense of unease. The car glided smoothly onto the main road, the hum of its engine barely audible. Ethan sat stiffly in the back seat, his hands gripping the edge of the leather upholstery. Through the tinted windows, he watched the familiar streets of his neighborhood blur into the distance. Where are we going? He asked, his voice tight with unease. The man beside him didn't answer right away. Instead, he adjusted his sunglasses and stared straight ahead. Patience, Ethan, he finally said, his tone calm yet evasive. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. The silence in the car was oppressive, broken only by the faint sounds of traffic outside. As the car merged onto the highway, the buildings grew sparser, replaced by wide stretches of open fields. The familiar landmarks that once grounded him were now gone, leaving Ethan feeling more isolated than ever. Look, Ethan pressed, his voice louder this time. I deserve to know what's going on. The man turned slightly, his expression unreadable. You'll have your answer soon enough. Just trust me. Trust. The word echoed in Ethan's mind, but it offered little comfort. He leaned back, forcing himself to stay calm even as his heart raced. The further the car traveled from the city, the more questions churned in his mind, unanswered and heavy. As the car veered off the highway and onto a narrow, winding road, the world outside grew increasingly desolate. Tall trees lined the path, their branches intertwining overhead, blocking out most of the light. The hum of the engine seemed louder now, reverberating through the quiet. Ethan's unease deepened with each passing mile. "Are we almost there?" he asked, trying to mask the nervous edge in his voice. The man in the suit gave a brief nod but didn't elaborate. The driver remained silent, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Ethan glanced out the window again, but the dense forest offered no clues about their destination. Finally, the car emerged from the tree-lined path, revealing a small, secluded harbor. The sight took Ethan by surprise. A sleek, modern boat rocked gently at the dock, its polished surface glinting under the fading light of the late afternoon. The water stretched endlessly beyond, calm yet ominous. The car came to a halt, and the man in the suit opened his door. "Out," he said curtly, motioning for Ethan to follow. Ethan hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to stay put. "What is this place?" he demanded, his voice more forceful now. "You'll understand soon enough," the man replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. He walked toward the dock without looking back, his long strides full of purpose. Ethan reluctantly stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching under his feet as he followed. The air was cool and carried a faint salty tang. He paused at the edge of the dock, staring at the boat, its engine humming softly. "Get on," the man ordered, gesturing toward the boat. Ethan's eyes darted between the boat and the car behind him. He felt trapped, with no clear way out. Taking a deep breath, he stepped onto the vessel, its deck swaying slightly under his weight. The man climbed aboard and motioned to the captain, who started the engine. As the boat pulled away from the dock, Ethan turned back, watching the harbor shrink into the distance. The dense forest now seemed like a barrier, cutting him off from everything familiar. "What's going on?" Ethan asked again, his voice barely audible over the boat's motor. "Soon," the man repeated, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The boat glided across the water, slicing through the glassy surface of the sea. Ethan gripped the railing tightly, the salty breeze stinging his face as he stared out at the endless expanse. The shoreline had long disappeared, replaced by the rolling waves stretching to the horizon. "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice breaking the monotonous hum of the engine. The man in the suit stood at the bow, his posture rigid and unyielding. Without turning, he replied, "Somewhere important." Ethan clenched his fists, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. "You keep saying that, but I deserve answers. Why me? What do you want from me?" This time, the man turned slightly, his sunglasses reflecting the setting sun. "Patience," he said again, his voice calm yet firm. "You'll know soon enough." Ethan exhaled sharply, leaning back against the railing. The unease in his chest was growing, an unsettling mix of fear and anticipation. The further the boat traveled, the more isolated he felt, cut off from everything familiar. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Ethan spotted something in the distance. At first, it looked like a shadow on the water, but as they drew closer, the silhouette of a jagged island came into view. Tall cliffs jutted out of the sea, their dark outlines stark against the colorful sky. "What is that place?" Ethan asked, his voice hushed. The man didn't respond. Instead, he motioned to the captain, who adjusted the boat's course. Ethan's stomach churned as they approached the island, the sheer cliffs looming larger with every passing second. As the boat slowed, the sound of waves lapping against the hull filled the air. Ethan noticed a small dock nestled between the rocks, where a narrow path snaked upward into dense greenery. The air felt heavier here, almost as if the island itself was alive and watching. The man turned to Ethan. "We're here," he said, his voice final. Ethan swallowed hard, his pulse quickening. As the boat drifted to the dock, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited him on that island would change everything. The boat bumped gently against the dock, jolting Ethan from his thoughts. The man in the suit gestured for him to step off. Ethan hesitated, his feet rooted to the swaying deck. Something about the stillness of the island made his skin prickle. "Move," the man said, his tone firm but calm. Taking a deep breath, Ethan climbed onto the dock. The air here was different, thicker, heavier, almost as if it carried secrets. Ethan's eyes darted around, taking in the narrow path winding into the dense greenery, and the faint outline of a large structure beyond. "Follow me," the man ordered, already heading toward the path. Ethan reluctantly trailed behind, his pulse quickening with every step. As they emerged from the trees, Ethan froze. Standing at the entrance of a sleek, modern building was a figure he immediately recognized. Elon Musk. "Elon Musk?" Ethan blurted out, his voice a mix of disbelief and confusion. Elon turned, leaning slightly on a cane, his presence commanding yet approachable. A faint smile crossed his lips. "Ethan," he said, his voice steady. "We meet again." Ethan's mind raced, piecing together fragments of the past few days. You're the man I helped at Value Mart," he stammered. "Yes," Elon replied, taking a step closer. "And I haven't forgotten." His smile faded into a more serious expression. "What you did was more significant than you realize, Ethan. And now I need you." Elon gestured for Ethan to follow him inside the sleek building. As the doors slid open, Ethan's breath caught. The interior was minimalist yet futuristic, walls lined with glowing screens displaying maps, data streams, and blueprints. It was like stepping into the control room of a science fiction film. "Welcome to my operations hub," Elon said, walking with deliberate steps. He stopped in front of a massive screen displaying a glowing map of the world. "This," he said, pointing at the screen, "is the future I'm building." Ethan frowned, still trying to grasp what was happening. "I don't understand. Why am I here?" Elon turned to face him, his gaze steady. "Because I see something in you that most people overlook: kindness, courage, and the ability to act when others hesitate. What you did at Value Mart wasn't just a small gesture, Ethan. It was a demonstration of character, and that's exactly what I need." Ethan blinked, the weight of Elon's words settling over him. "But I'm just a teenager. What can I possibly do to help you?" Elon's expression softened. "No great change ever started without someone who believed in the impossible. I need people like you to be part of a team that will tackle the biggest challenges our world faces: energy, sustainability, innovation." Ethan stared at the screen, the enormity of the moment sinking in. "You're serious," he said, half to himself. "Dead serious," Elon replied. "This is your chance to be part of something that matters. The question is, are you ready to take it?" Ethan stared at Elon, his chest tightening as the weight of the decision loomed over him. Could I really do this? He wondered. His mind flashed back to Value Mart, to Karen's cold dismissal, and the crushing doubt he felt walking out that day. But now, here he stood, chosen for something he couldn't yet understand, but which felt undeniably important. "I don't think I'm the right person for this," Ethan admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Elon's gaze didn't waver. "That's exactly why you are. You're not here because you think you're ready. You're here because you act when it matters, even when no one's watching. That's rare, Ethan. And it's exactly what the world needs." The words settled deep in Ethan's chest, pushing away some of the fear. Slowly, he nodded. "Okay. I'll try." "You won't just try," Elon corrected with a faint smile. "You'll succeed. And when you don't, you'll get back up and try again." As they walked through the building, passing walls of intricate designs and data streams, Ethan's steps felt lighter. Every screen, every plan, hinted at a vision bigger than anything he had imagined. Days ago, he was just a kid working at Value Mart, fired for helping a stranger. Now, he was stepping into a future filled with possibilities. "You'll meet the team soon," Elon continued. They're just as passionate as you are, and together, we're going to create something extraordinary. Ethan felt a flicker of excitement for the first time in days. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, Elon had made that clear, but for the first time, he felt like he had a place in the world where he could truly make a difference. Sometimes, life takes unexpected turns. A single act of kindness can lead to losing everything you thought you needed, only to gain something far greater. Ethan's story reminds us that the smallest decisions can shape our future in ways we can't predict. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more inspiring tales like Ethan's, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Together, we'll explore the moments that change lives forever.